Hello everyone. Before we get started, I just want to remind you all that I will be posting large pieces of content every 2 to 3 weeks. So if there's a movie and or show you want me to review, analyze, or potentially talk about in a ranking video, then by all means share your ideas. And if I have enough interest in that very idea, I'll be sure to credit you in that very video. But enough stalling. Let's jump right into the video. Marvel Zombies, everybody. Marvel Zombies was a show that released on Disney Plus, and Marvel Zombies was a show I just watched. And I have words to say about Marvel Zombies, which is a show. I mean, why else would this video exist? Anyway, Marvel Zombies. When I first heard that the show was being announced, I wasn't at all interested, mainly because every show Disney spewed out outside of Loki and WandaVision, I guess, was kinda not good. So I fully expected this show to suck, and since my expectations were already not that high, I can at the very least say it wasn't bad. I mean, I guess I liked it better than What If Season 2. Do with that information with what you will. There were some scenes I thought were okay and did activate something in my monkey brain, or in this case, zombie brain would be more appropriate, even though zombies don't have brains and they eat the brains and they do zombie things. Honestly, watching all 4 episodes made me feel like a zombie, to put it bluntly. Ignoring the dozens of plot holes there were in the wider MCU and in this show itself, it's pretty okay. Episode 1 was alright. I thought Ms. Marvel was a pretty good and likable protagonist for the show. Seeing Blade in a Marvel product after all these years was pretty cool, actually. And there were some legitimately smart ideas used in this episode, like mind-controlling zombies. Right off the bat, this show's biggest strengths are the fight scenes. Sure, not all of them are amazing or make a lot of sense if you think about them for longer than a minute, but I'd say that they are pretty epic. I like how the show takes full advantage of its R rating, showing some legitimately graphic and brutal ways many of these characters die in the show. Like how Melina got stabbed through the stomach with a Wakandan spear. One major problem I had with this episode, which does follow through the entire show itself, is the humor. I don't mind having there be some bit of funny moments to offset the dire situation that these characters are in, but there were definitely some very unfunny jokes that felt a little too forced and messed with the overall tone, which is something that happens way too often. But with that said, episode 2 was actually pretty good. At first I wasn't sure how I felt having Shang-Chi and the Awkwafina character joining our central team, but I didn't expect to like their inclusion. The Mad Max reference was cute, and I liked that Shang-Chi shared his rings with his partner. Seeing Zemo having control over the underwater city with a genuinely terrifying way of keeping the drowned zombies at peace is absolutely welcome. Not to mention that Yelena's sacrifice got me a little misty-eyed. So yeah, I didn't expect to like episode 2 this much. Outside of Jimmy, who's kind of annoying, and the less frequent yet still present unfunny jokes, which, by the way, not all the jokes are bad, but sometimes they can interfere with the more dramatic scenes. But outside of those problems, this episode got me hooked, and I couldn't wait to see what happens next. The first 5 minutes of episode 3 kinda left a bad taste in my mouth. While the fight scene was cool, I think Peter's narration took me out of the scene a little bit and didn't need to be there. Plus, there were some leaps in logic, like how zombie Thanos incinerates Stormbreaker in an instant, or when T'Challa pushes Purple Raisin Man into a hole of vibranium that destroys the stones. None of these actions are impossible, but how they pan out can be a little bit ridiculous. Thankfully, the episode becomes interesting when the gang arrives at New Asgard and meets Valkyrie. I like the interaction she has with Khonshu that only she and Blade can see. That was pretty funny. We then enter through the gates to party with the boys, a broken Thor, and holy! I wasn't expecting a normal-looking Wanda to just walk in to our main characters in this party. It is revealed that Wanda wants to use the energy left by the stones to create a better world and also needs Miss Marvel to complete it. More on that later. The scene when the Red Guardian turns into a zombie was actually pretty heartbreaking, considering everything he's been through both in this episode and the 2 previous episodes. And the Nova Corp keeping the Earth in quarantine was a neat twist. Man, I sure can't wait to see this sensational final episode this show was building towards. Episode 4 was kind of whatever. There's some genuinely awesome stuff and some really confusing and insane stuff in this episode, which pretty much evens each other out. I guess it's a good time as any to talk about the animation. While other episodes has decent visuals with the occasional awkward stilted movements of characters, this episode was actually pretty good if we're judging it solely for its animation. I like the yellows and greens and magentas that make up Infinity Hulk, and the deep reds of Wanda and her zombie horde against the dark blue sky. But yeah, no, this episode wasn't really that great, and that's mostly because of this episode's conclusion. Remember when I said that Wanda needed Miss Marvel in order to help create a better world, even though that the energy of the Infinity Stones might be enough for that? Well, I wish I could tell you, but I can't. You wanna know why? Because I don't know. Even though I praise this show for its fight scenes, I will have to say that this one, while being cool and all, does come with its one specific problem in my opinion. Infinity Hulk should not get beaten up this badly. I get that you want Wanda to get the powers of the Infinity Stones, but considering that this is the Hulk, and he has the energy of the Infinity Stones, I would honestly believe that it should be nearly impossible for anyone, even Wanda, to defeat him. But when Wanda does eventually get the energy of the Infinity Stones, she then asks Miss Marvel to lend herself her powers in order to help create a better world. And I like how Miss Marvel decides to go through with this after seeing everybody around her start to fall victim of the zombie infection. So I thought that was a pretty neat twist. What comes after that is kinda stupid. So everything seems to go back to normal, with Miss Marvel going about her life as it once was, with her friends, her family, but uh-oh, turns out it's an illusion. Almost like a certain other Marvel show. Now wait a minute, I thought that Wanda's entire goal was to create a better world using the energy of the stones and Miss Marvel's, powers or something like that. So why exactly is it an illusion here? I mean, she is proven to be powerful enough to create illusions, even when she wasn't a zombie. So why exactly is this a thing that has to happen? Is it because it makes for a neat cliffhanger? It's because it makes for a neat cliffhanger. So while the rest of the series, I would say, ranges from tolerable to actually pretty good, the ending that this episode presents didn't feel earned or well built up towards, unfortunately. If I had to rank each episode within the show, I would say that episode 1 is a 5 out of 10. Not all the jokes landed for me, but overall not that bad. Episode 2, I would say, is a solid 7 out of 10. I actually liked it. A lot of the concepts are a lot cooler than were last episode. I'd say that this is my second favorite episode of the entire series. Episode 3 is a 6 out of 10. While the first 5 minutes did not leave the best impression on me when I first saw this, it was able to pick itself back up with some pretty cool twists and turns. And I would say that episode 4 is a 4 out of 10. I don't think I need to elaborate any further on that. So yeah, while there's some pretty good stuff in it, I can't see myself watching it again even if given the choice. Now, it's not the worst Halloween show based on a beloved book series on Disney+. However, I do think that I'm going to distance myself from anything Marvel related outside of Spider-Man or Guardians of the Galaxy, to be honest. So yeah, I would probably say that the overall score for this show is a 5 out of 10. But don't let my opinion sway you from watching the show if you haven't already. Maybe some of the stuff that I didn't like might not stick out as much as some of the stuff that you may like. And as always, I will see you in the next video.